Hawaii.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure it's distributed anywhere outside of like New England. And I never had it until adulthood, and even here it's hard to find. It's a pretty old soda. Yeah, I'm not.
I think we're fixing the YouTube.
I see it. It's here. I heard myself.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's fixed. Before we recorded, I was talking about a quirk with trying to stream off of a like a scheduled stream as opposed to like a brand new fresh stream. Another quirk that I just learned was that there's a button you have to hit to go live on the website. So on my side, I was streaming. It looked like I was streaming, but like I was streaming to YouTube, and I had to tell YouTube to open the floodgates and send it to the actual public. So
Okay,
that's
so
my
now
fault.
we are up. We have Chris from Canada and Tyler in the chat.
Yep. Yes. Guys, you didn't miss much. We were just talking about root beer.
Yes.
Thickness is a podcast.
Okay, well, now that we got our technical things sorted out, for our main segment, we'll be doing a triple dip based on manga that's available on the new Viz Manga subscription. But before that, let's get started with an email. I got an email here from Chris from Canada that says, "Giving manga a rating. Hey team Manga Mac. I was wondering how long it takes you before you feel comfortable giving a manga or media a rating out of 10. I always add the manga I finish reading to my anime list, and one of the criteria asks for is a rating. I know some people have a knee-jerk reaction to score something as soon as they finish something. For me, I like to wait a bit, see how things play on in my mind. For instance, I went back and moved every part of JoJo up one rank because months later it was something I kept thinking about and talking to friends about the manga. Sometimes a week or so later, once the initial thrill has worn off, I start to wonder why I like something so much, or why I scored it the way I did. I do tend to be more forgiving for a lot of media, and I can get really enthralled with stories and characters. Chris from Canada, peace. Out.
Wow.
The sustain.
I didn't know you used to be the THX logo. Kids from the 90s wouldn't understand that joke. I'm not sure if anybody will know that joke now.
I mean, honestly, I could have gone on for another 30 seconds, probably 40.
Wow, wow. Well, thank you for sparing us, not breaking our ears.
Yeah. No, Chris wrote a lot of O's, and then he switched it to capital O's. So, blame Chris. Thank you for your email, Chris. Ratings. You know, I don't tend to rate things with numbers. Not really.
Yeah, I haven't been using Goodreads. I decided to stop using it because it's owned by Amazon. And I'm cranky about Amazon and their effect on publishing. But they have like a 5 stars rating system. And I've talked about this before, like 1 star is I didn't like this, 2 stars is it was okay, 3 stars is I liked this, 4 is this was really good, and 5 is I love this. And that's kind of how I would give things 3 stars a lot. And I didn't think that was like a bad thing. I like 3 is like average, right? Like that's how I kind of looked at it. But some people got very mad at me for giving things 3 stars.
Like Vinland Saga.
Like, was it Vinland Saga? Or I think it was Golden Kamuy.
Yes, I remember this. And then people were like, why'd you give it 3 stars, Morgana? I saw that Goodreads.
Yeah, I'm like, I thought 3, like, I liked it. I liked it, but it wasn't, like, life-changing. Like, I think 3 stars is perfectly fine.
That's a 6 out of 10, Morgana. That's terrible in American rankings, isn't it?
It is.
It's like if it's below a 7 out of 10. IGN told me this. And of course, I trust IGN and all that.
Yeah, and I probably would have given it, like, a 6 out of 10. You know, if I was doing 10. I don't really know how it would... Like, the 5-star system is very simple and straightforward. It is like, there are too many factors here. How do I, like, I don't know. 10 is too many numbers.
The numbers mean different things to different people across the world. It's too subjective.
Yeah, yeah.
I do 7 stars by quarters.
Oh my gosh. What?
7 stars by quarters.
Yeah, the Dave Meltzer method.
Oh my gosh, hilarious.
No, I don't. I do 5 stars.
Okay.
I was like, yeah, Goodreads, Giant Bomb. It's like, God, who was a PC? Who did the percentages? Is that PC Gamer?
I don't know, man. I
They had
remember
like 81.
I forgot which game magazine does it because ratings were all that people cared about back in the day, and they would be like, graphics are 9 out of 10,
That was gameplay.
but gameplay is 4 out of 10. It's like, dude,
Fun factor and all that.
break it down.
Wasn't that GameSpot? And didn't they have
Reviewers tilt.
Yeah, because didn't they have a calculation then that like spit out a number in the end?
Yep. GameSpot actually had a calculator, so you couldn't, like, the reviewer couldn't say I'm giving it a 7.8. They'd have to give the score for the individual segments, and they would figure it out. And if it ended up too low or too high, that's why they had the reviewers tilt, so they can bias the actual sum lower or higher, which is a really stupid workaround.
It's dumb. Numbers are dumb, everybody.
You heard it here first.
I mean, unless we do some things by numbers, then it's not dumb. Darfox, do you do anything by numbers?
I put my pants one leg at a time. I do that by numbers. I'm not. That's a weird question. I'm not sure what I do by numbers, but
And do you rate, like, I don't really...
Movies, kung fu movies, books,
no, you know, if
comics.
somebody asks me, it's pretty easy for me to just kind of like gut check something and say, yeah, I give it a 7, I give it an 8. We do that sometimes after we finish a kung fu movie, especially if it's like the third or fourth one we've seen of the same director or something. I was like, yeah, you know, that one's kind of higher than the other one, so it's easy for me to gut check, but like I don't really put that much thought into it. I don't think if you were write the stuff I said down, it would make sense in the long run. You know, oh, you're telling me that you gave 36 Chambers of Shaolin a higher number than freaking Project A? What are you, freaking stupid? Which is what happens to game reviewers all the time, because
Yep.
gamers never forget.
The other thing...
No, Dara, clearly there you're biased by the whatever VHS versus DVD.
Oh yes, the platform is, yes,
The platform, yes.
Yes.
The other thing is, like, so, you know, and I was rating books when I was doing this on Goodreads. It was, you know, by volume essentially. So each volume would get its own rating, you know, depending on whether I liked that particular volume. I didn't do it like on a series basis. But the thing too that I've noticed is that, like, yeah, like Chris is right. Your feelings might change about something. Like when you read it, you might be like, "Oh, this was so much fun. I love this," and then like you come back to it later, or like. In my case, I remember reading the next volume of something like months later when it came out and being like, "Why did I like this so much?" So your ideas change, and your feelings about a thing can change. So rating is useful to a point. Like I used to use it for myself, really, just to kind of gauge what I was enjoying. But I also feel like I'm not entirely comfortable like committing to a rating completely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I use Goodreads and Letterboxd for movies. And they also have, well, I think they have a 5-star scale, which you can do it by halves, but I'm like, no, we're just sticking to the 5-star scale here. But I don't know, I think I do it more just so like I can come back and be like, I give that movie 5 stars. And then I watch it and I'm like, oh yes, I remember why I give that movie 5 stars. Or I'm like, and rewatch more before thing. But I think that's it. For me, it's more like, is it consistent or does it change over time? But then I don't do it for other stuff like TV or wrestling or video games. But I do like write notes in a book and then think to myself, how am I ever going to fight in 5 years' time? Because I have no idea what date I read it or what year I read half this stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, that's what Goodreads and Letterboxd ultimate use is for. I can be like, okay, I read that in like this day and this month, right? I just need to find like that year book, and then like I can skim through the pages and actually be like, okay, that's what I thought at the time.
Yeah, maybe it's better as a personal tool than a tool for like other people to look at you and then yell at Morgana about giving Golden Kamuy 3 out of 5 stars.
I'm
How
sorry.
dare you?
It was good. I just 3 is like average. I don't know.
I mean, it was good, but did it have like rock and roll oriented? I mean, like,
I mean, there's no like sad long-haired Bishonen, so it's like never gonna get like my 5-star. Like,
You're like me and kids. There's kids. Oh, it focuses on kids. Can't go for 4.
Exactly.
Okay, here's a question for Chris. Do you start at 0 or do you start at 5? I think that's the Dave Meltzer minute. Is he starts at 0 and then adds stars.
Wait, as you could give something 0 stars?
No.
Like a
So
0 out of 10?
from what I remember, he like starts at 0 stars, and then over the course of a match, he's like adding it, as opposed to like starting at, I don't know, 2.5 and then going up or down.
which is theoretically why he breaks the scale occasionally and gives something 6 stars or 7 stars, because theoretically the match could be so good that partway through the match he reaches 5 stars and it keeps on getting good.
Yeah, because they had an extra 20 minutes, and the longer matches go, the higher he rates them.
Yeah,
That's how he
which
does
is an
it.
obvious bias, right? That's not necessarily the best way to rate things.
Well, obviously, like someone broke it down and literally like graphed all his reviews by time. And I also feel if you could somehow work a number of moves into a match, that would actually probably be a greater proxy, where it's like, oh well, they did X many moves in a minute or X many moves in the match, 7 stars.
So you could literally just game most of his reviews.
Well, like that's why we're going totally off topic here. Why do you think the 7 stars came along? Because people who read his reviews for years, like Omega and the Young Bucks, basically like that's the style they learn. Like it all came from Dragon Gate, and then like that became the indie style, and that became like, and Dragon Gate took it from like 90s Joshi, which Meltzer like that's where if you go back to like the 90 Meltzer reviews, like a lot of them were given to like 90s Joshi matches because it's like a 4-person tag and they're like doing mad shit and just beating the shit out of each other. But yeah, it's literally like the what's the thing, like the snake eating itself is like what's happened. Given the Young Bucks have a move called the Meltzer Driver. Yeah. Come on, like they're literally like Dave likes them, they do what Dave likes, it just feeds itself in an endless loop.
Which is really silly. Like imagine like a director naming them a film they made the Ebert Comer or some shit like that. Like I'm not a Young Bucks hater, but I do think it's a little bit weird.
It's not just a Young Bucks thing. It's like it's just they named the move after him, and he was in PWG for all those years when they were there. PWG becomes good because Dave Meltzer starts going to it.
I mean,
PWG is no longer good when he's not there anymore.
I can take this back to manga a bit. Like, there are manga artists who do certain things because the audience eats that shit up. Like, a classic thing, Darfox, is a bad guy in a shonen battle series comes back, and now he's on the good side.
I love that shit.
Yeah, see, Morgana eats that shit up.
That is my bread and butter. Redemption arcs are so good.
And they throw that into fucking shonen battle stuff and popular stuff all the time because many people like Morgana love that shit. And it brings up popularity.
Akira Toriyama did like 8 times.
And Vegeta is the best character in all of Dragon Ball, so...
He's the most redemption arcs there for the best. 7 stars. 1 star for redemption arc.
You know, Tyler in chat said he doesn't understand how you can rate volumes, but I think that's wrong. Because I would easily say, like, Volume 4 B-Stars is a 10 out of 10. It's got the fucking Lego Moo chapter, the God Tier chapter.
Yes.
It's got the introduction of the black market, which made that series way better. And then you compare it to, like, the final volumes of B-Stars, and I would not give those higher ratings. They'd get, like, 6 or 7s.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I would rate as I read, so it's like volume to volume as its own entity. And actually, B-Stars is one of those series that fluctuated from volume to volume. Usually, the series remain pretty consistent unless they start to really drop off. But B-Stars was one of those ones where it kind of ranged. A lot of them were 4 and 5, but it did, out of 5. But, it did waver sometimes.
Yeah. A series is most often not consistently good.
But it's interesting if you do rate in the long term or very long series, volume per volume, you can chart your own dissatisfaction curves and stuff with the story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So one rating of volume could be good, just consumer use or consumer review critique. But also it could just be like a snapshot of what you liked about the series or when did you like the series.
We have somebody I don't recognize in our chat, Philip Lee. Hi, Philip. He says ratings are generally subjective. And that's why he focuses on written parts. See if that resonates with him.
I think the problem there is if someone like Dave Meltzer can't write a review to save his life. This, because this is just in my head the last week. I don't know why. I was remembering back to like when I like for a year subscribed to the Wrestling Observer, and then cancelled that subscription because I was like, this guy's reviews, he's literally like listing out the moves.
It's like stream unconscious, or it's just like,
yeah, like it's not actually like
right what you see.
There's no real. It's not like I don't know. There's other like people online who do this stuff where I'm like, okay, they're worth reading. He's clearly not. But it's so funny because then like, fucking Reddit. The first thing they do is this is Meltzer's ratings, and I'm like, none of these people actually read what he wrote. But like, so it doesn't matter. It's the same with the video game stuff. It's like, no, you just want like the rating. It's like the headline.
Yeah, famously, Edge magazine, which is kind of like that was the more expensive, maybe higher critique, at least consider what was higher critique, video game magazine compared to like EGM or something like that. And they tried to remove the scores from the reviews, and they would put the scores at the back of the book. Like, hey, if you care about the scores, check the back of the book. And I think they stopped doing that because basically people would just check the back of the book and just have a huge itinerary of scores, and that was kind of like it just ended up boiling down the usefulness of the magazine to a couple pages, which was kind of
That's
funny.
sad. There you go. We went on a wonderful wrestling tangent.
Speaking of Vegeta, I'm wearing pink right now. You can see if you're watching this in the live stream, it does not say Bad Man in the back of my pink shirt, but I wish it did.
Not yet.
Yeah,
You could DIY that shit.
I could. Yeah. Yes.
I've seen a bunch of videos recently about how much how bad a husband and father Goku is and how good Vegeta is at it. And like I stopped watching Dragon Ball Z ages and ages ago. I watched it as a kid, but I just like 10-year-old me feels very vindicated for being in love with Vegeta even when he was evil. Like it's like, yeah, cuz he doesn't suck.
Yeah, well, the funny thing about Vegeta's character is that like canonically he but I say canonically, I mean that like the character speaks this, at least. Whether or not the character was lying to himself is a different thing. But he says that he got a family and he got children because he was basically trying to emulate Kakarot, because Kakarot did that, and like maybe that's the key to Kakarot's power, right? But like, if that's true, the very calculated and cunning like method to find a family, he was somehow more like emotionally available to his family than Goku was. And he somehow learned more than Goku. Like,
Yeah.
Even after all that.
Yep.
Which is the funny thing.
It's so good. It's Vegeta's character arc. And again, I know very little about it except that he's like a great dad and a great husband. It just makes me happy. I feel very vindicated.
My Bulma.
Yep. I remember being mad about the Bulma thing too, thinking it was like a weird pairing, and now I'm just like, nope, they have a good marriage. I'm happy for them.
Yamcha be damned.
Yamcha's kind of a shitter.
Yeah, well,
He is.
yeah.
But don't worry, he got with the other Bulma sister.
Wait, what? No way! I didn't know this.
Isn't
lie.
that the case? Wait, maybe I'm lying.
Okay, I'm going to emergency contact LB behind the scenes. He should probably know this. But I find that gross, sir. Okay, we've been going on a billion tangents, but I'm going to go on a tangent right now again. you know Star Trek. You know that television show.
Oh,
Pull
that-
out your bingo card, everybody. We already hit wrestling. Now we're on Star Trek.
um,
This is a manga podcast.
Star Trek has tons of episodes that are bad and tons of weird plot points. You're like, ooh, they didn't think that one through. That's kind of weird. Or maybe that relationship is weird. Like, bad idea, doesn't fit the character. There's one episode of Star Trek Voyager. Do you remember Kess Dagasu? Kess, the character. She's like this young woman who her species has a accelerated lifespan, so they only live like 10 years. So at the
Yes.
age of like 2 or 3, she's already like an adult or something, or close to an adult.
Mm-hmm.
So she was kind of like a young woman, but she was actually just like 2 or 3 years old, right? So it had that weird thing where like, okay, she's baby aged, but she's kind of, for her species maturity, she's already like kind of old. And
She was the naive character, right?
she was the naive
Yeah.
character. There was a alternate future episode where Kess married Tom Paris, and then they had a baby, and then that baby grew like Kess grew, and when it was old enough, in a few years, Harry Kim married that baby, who was around for the baby's like birth and helped raise the baby. It
Oh,
is the
no.
most character assassination thing they did with Harry Kim, and that's saying something, because Harry Kim, I feel so bad for Harry Kim, because like they really didn't do that character justice. And famously, the actor, he's a Korean actor. He's the only Star Trek actor who was turned down when asked to direct an episode, because Star Trek actually ended up creating director careers for a lot of their lead actors, like Jonathan Frakes from TNG. Garrett Wang actually asked. He said, "Hey, can I direct it?" Like, no. The only like there was some serious like Asian racism happening, like with that shit there.
Were they gonna kill him off until he won like the sexiest man of the year
Yes.
in People's Magazine or some shit?
Yes, if it was up to the people running like Star Trek, he would have been killed off. Side tangent. Why did I get on that shit? I just know it's just the wrongest shit I've seen in Star Trek, and it's just like a total fucking assassination of Harry Kim. I'm sorry.
Wasn't that the ending of Twilight?
I thought of the same thing.
Okay, because I like read about this, so I could be wrong, but I feel like the ending of Twilight is the main girl and the vampire have a kid, and the
They
wolf
do.
guy like
He
imprints
Yeah.
on the
Yep,
child or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Well,
I
what-
never read them. I watched the movies with Rift Tracks, but yes, yeah. Renesmee is the baby's name, and she
What a
she and
name.
yeah,
Her
she
name's
and
Resme.
Renesmee,
Okay,
like Renee and Esme smashed together.
okay. I thought it was Resme, like in a video game, like Resme, bro. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, and I don't. Yeah, she and Wolf Boy are like
So
destined.
did Wolf Boy imprint on her, meaning that he was obsessed with her, or did the
She-
little girl imprint?
I don't really remember. Either way, the implication was they were destined to be together, and she's like a child and he is an adult, and it's weird.
He was an adult who was in a like romantic rivalship with like her
For
mom.
her mom. Yep.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of weird shit going on there.
Now that I think of it, there was. I don't know. Is this a romance thing or is this a sci-fi or fantasy thing? Because I can definitely think of like old sci-fi novels where like similar stuff happened, and they usually contrive it where it's like, oh well, we're all alone in the vastness of space, or for the good of the species. And I was like, Jesus, lads, you really try to find a reason that, like, yeah, we'll have this like 30-year-old hook up with a 15-year-old and
And
make
it's-
sure it's all right.
And it's always a young girl. It's never,
Right.
it's like who's writing this shit? I'm like, come on, guys, just out yourself. Like, like
The artist or the writer's barely disguised fetish. That's the meme.
Well,
Yeah.
I can think of at least one example where it was a woman writing that story, and I was like, really? This is. You're like, yeah, we'll have
Well-
both of the 15-year-old twin girls hook up with two separate men. One of them who's
There's
like
a-
5,000 years old.
there's, I guess, Stephanie Meyer's a woman too, but yeah, it's I remember too watching the movies, the Twilight movies, and the Bella's pregnancy and delivery looking like so like it was so dramatic, like, oh, you're carrying a vampire's baby and so it could kill you, and like it was just like it was bad. It was really bad. Like
Would it like drink her blood?
there was some implication that it was like draining her life from the inside, which, to be fair, as somebody who is about 8 months
Oh, no.
pregnant,
I was
does
going to
kind
say,
of feel
isn't that
that
what
way.
babies do anyway? Technically.
Yeah, it's but you know, she was like, I mean, the makeup they put on Kristen Stewart, and like I think they used like CG effects too. She looked like sunken and like she was dying, and I was just like, this is really great. Like let's show a whole generation of girls like how terrible pregnancy is. I mean, it is terrible. But and you know, more people should know that pregnancy is not like fun and easy. However, this is not the way.
Well, there you go,
All
everybody.
right,
That was
to
our
tie it
email.
back to initial question, Morgana, rate your pregnancy out of 5 stars.
Oh, this pregnancy.
Well,
They both suck.
we should wait for the second one, and you can be like, well, the first one, you know, volume 1, this rating, volume 2, this rating.
Yeah, I hate being pregnant, actually. This is the case for both. I would probably rate pregnancy overall like 2 out of 5 stars.
But isn't it? It's okay.
It's okay. Like there are good parts. The parts where like I can eat everything and nobody
Morgana,
can tell
all
me
your
anything.
friends are going to come back and be like, why did you rate your pregnancy so low?
Right? Love my kids. I give my daughter 5 out of 5 stars most of the time. But being pregnant with her sucked, and being pregnant with her siblings sucks.
See, a
Product at
perfect
the
score
end
is also a problem, Morgana. People are going to come to you and be like, so you think Severine is perfect? 5 out of 5?
I mean, perfect and flawed, but yes.
That's not a 5 out of 5, Morgana.
She's 5 out of 5!
Well, on the Goodreads scale, Doctor, so 5 out of 5 is I loved it. Is that
I
it?
loved it, yes.
Yeah, it's not. It's perfect. So you know,
No, it's
you're,
just...
you're taking your video game terminology now and bringing it into
I am.
Morgana's children.
So every kid
should not
be
do
a
this.
5. Hopefully.
Hopefully every parent thinks their child is a 5 out of 5. There are rough days, but you don't actually stop feeling that they are 5 out of 5. I hope.
Well, let's not think about it too much, because then we'll get depressed.
There was that one time where I'm
Oh,
pretty
no.
sure my parents thought I was a 1 out of 5. I don't think it
Yeah,
got that bad.
Let's get away from this conversation. It'll go dark. Thank you for your email, Chris. You can send emails over to mangamachinations@gmail.com. And we will probably talk about Star Trek and wrestling. All right, everybody. Let's move along to some what you been reading. Start with Darfox this time. Darfox, did you read anything this week?
No, I don't believe I did. I'm trying to think. No, nothing for me.
Okay. What about you, Seamus? I know you are getting busy to move into your own place.
No.
Okay. And Morgana, you're busy being very pregnant. But
So
did you read
pregnant.
anything?
I
you read
did.
anything?
Nothing relevant. No. My daughter's doing this thing now where she doesn't go to sleep unless I'm like sitting next to her for like hours. So the time spent reading was spent reading this week's assignment.
Of course. Well, I have a bunch of things I've been reading, and I will talk about some of them. I'm going to shoot Darfox a link to some sample chapters of Gunnibal.
Takazu, when you said I was going to shoot Darfox, I immediately thought you're going to like punch him in the face.
As opposed to actually shoot him with a firearm.
Exactly. When I hear shoot, I think wrestling. That's because probably because I'm listening to so many fucking wrestling podcasts these days.
Well, I'm ready for the receipt.
Shouldn't I be ready for the receipt? If I punched you, then like you gotta punch me back.
Yes.
Let me know if that link works, Star. If not, I have another link for you. But
it does. I'm not going to put it up on stream yet. I'm going to find a good picture to leave it on stream.
be careful what you put up there, because Gun Naval is a manga I've talked about before.
Yes.
Morgana, it was about the cop that ends up working at a remote village out in the boonies, and it's heavily implied that people there are eating other people.
I don't remember this at all.
It has
was
a
a long
pretty
time
famous
ago.
cover. If you saw a cover, it might be like, oh yeah. They have like a village person being kind of crazy looking up. In fact, I'll look for the cover.
I posted Morgana another link over to the Nihon Bungeisha publisher's website. This is a manga that was published in Manga Goraku, a seinen magazine, and it was pretty like well known and popular, being like this horror thriller about this cop who is now stuck in a village where everybody might be a possible cannibal, and they're obviously hiding some deep dark secrets of the town. And meanwhile, he's brought his wife and his daughter, young daughter, who is not speaking right now. She's suffered a traumatic event. Well, I finished the series. It was 13 volumes, and I gotta say, it's pretty good. The thing about Gunnival is the art by Masaaki Ninomiya is super good. I will also post the link to the other hosts so they can look at the first sample chapter and you can flip through it. Really horrific art in terms of like some net. Oh, why'd you pick that page star? That's
They had the wife and the kid.
okay.
That is the wife, right?
Yes, that is the wife and the kid.
Yeah.
I figure you're gonna pick the page where
The final page.
that, or also where the cop is being held up with a shotgun right to his face for questioning like why this corpse has like teeth bite marks on it, and everybody, like all the locals there, start like giving like him immediate shit and threatening him.
Not
then laughing it
suspicious
off.
behavior.
Yeah, exactly. Point that shotgun in my face and laugh about it. Be like, haha, we were just joking. 13 volumes total. It gets pretty dark. And you know what I didn't like is, this is kind of typical for these kind of stories, is they devoted like a good chunk of the second half of the story to a flashback explaining how the village came to this point of being like full of cannibals and what it meant and who this maybe scary looking man at the end of the first chapter is. And I know you need to explain that kind of stuff, but it was dark, it was fucked up, bad stuff happened to women.
Shocking.
I know, right, Morgana? But I did enjoy it.
The art is really nice. I have to say, I am particularly sensitive to cannibal horror. Like, it freaks me out.
I remember when I brought this up the first time, Morgana, you were saying the idea of like remote village with like scary locals is kind of realistic and far more terrifying than like other monster stories or horror stories.
Yeah, I get weirded out sometimes by those like kinds of, I don't know, like those savage mountain people and their savage mountain ways. I don't know if I like this.
So this manga finished, but they're making a live action drama series based on it on Japanese Disney Plus.
What?
I posted Darfox a link. I don't know about this lead actor playing the cop. He looks way too handsome and young compared to the manga guy who looks more like a middle-aged, dad type character. And I don't know. Yes, very handsome. I don't know how much of the fucked up shit they're going to get into, because the story gets really dark, especially on the flashback. They'll definitely have to edit that for Disney Plus. Ooh, it's up on the stream, everybody. Look at that handsome man.
Hold on, don't they have a bunch of like over 18 stuff on Disney Plus now anyway?
Yeah, I think some of the original content is more like R-rated or whatever you want to call it, but I don't know, something with cannibals seems like crossing a line for Disney. I don't know why.
It's just another streaming service in Japan, I guess. Look at that zoom in on that handsome cop.
He's pretty handsome,
Mhm.
but he's still a cop.
If you
With
scroll
bloody
down, you can
hands.
see like the messed up villager that pointed the shotgun at his head. He's wearing the beanie dar. Let's see that
Oh.
man in the beanie. He is also pretty handsome. This
Yeah, pretty handsome
one
for
of the
a cannibal,
leaders.
I must say.
one of the leaders of the locals. It's a fun manga series. 13 volumes, not too long. You know, kind of like did what it needed to do. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. I won't give any spoilers. I will say it's one of the stories where, you know, maybe the cop starts to show some of his true colors, his darker side.
Because he's a cop.
Because he's a cop. But there you go. I read that. And I enjoyed it. Next, let me talk about Reborn no Kishi. Reborn no Kishi is a manga that ran in Big Comic Spirits, which is their weekly seinen magazine. I read it when it was serialized. It started in 2018. It's 7 volumes long, so very short. But it's about this man. Is it Anzai? I think it's Anzai. It's about shogi. So, no, Azumi. That's the name of him. Azumi was part of the Shoreikai. That is the professional league of, almost like professional like committee or group, professional league, I guess, for Japanese shogi. Shogi is it's basically like Japanese chess. The difference between regular chess and shogi is that in shogi, when you capture a piece, that's your piece, and then you can place it on the board and use it.
A little bit of checkers.
A little bit of checkers, yeah.
Do you
And
know
so-
how to play Dakazu? I'm just curious.
I do know how to play. I play very poorly. Like Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's one of those games that I would love to learn how to play. There's a few I learned Go at some point, but I don't remember it. But I haven't learned Shogi yet.
Shogi's fascinating, and there's a lot of manga about shogi. They don't tend to get localized and brought over outside of Japan because it's a very Japanese thing. But there's a lot of drama that you can do with shogi, and so with this manga, Azumi was in this Shoreikai, and they have a rule. If you cannot hit the 4th level by the age of 26, you are cast out, and you can no longer become a professional shogi player after that.
Wow.
They have an age restriction. This is still a thing, too. And so this manga is all about Azumi, who has been aged out. It's 4 years later, and now he just works as an attendant at a karaoke place. And then, he still can't forget about shogi. So at the end of the first chapter, he finally decides to face himself, face his past, play some shogi, and he's gonna start playing again because he loves shogi. He always loved shogi, and he had to give up on his dream, but now he can be reborn. Hence the title Reborn no Kishi. Kishi is the name of like the title that you give like shogi players. They're known as Kishi. And so it's basically like an underdog story where like he's making a comeback story.
Is his intention to become professional, or is it just like I want to? This game matters to me, and I want to enjoy my game.
The main theme is the latter, but also he learns that amateurs, people who are not in the professional shoreikai, if they beat professional players, like if they get 7 wins, they can take a test to become a professional player.
Oh.
And so it kind of follows him and a couple other characters as he struggles to regain his love of shogi. Because like by the time he was about to be aged out and he was in the 3rd league, he was so worried about his mistakes. He wasn't playing like he used to, like when he was a kid, how he loved playing shogi. And it's, it's a good story. It's good drama, good dramatics. I only thought of this manga because the manga artist Kurao Nabe just started a new series in Big Comic Spirits, and I was flipping through that and being like, I recognize this art, and I can't remember what it was. And when I looked it up, I was like, oh, this guy did Reborn no Kish. I love that manga. It's 7 volumes. I'm gonna buy them all now. And then I proceeded to stay up till like 12:30, and I did not have a good day at work the next day.
Classic Dagazu.
Classic Dagazu, can't stop reading. Hey, I read those 7 volumes in like an hour and a half. No, actually, it was like 2 hours. I bought them like past 10 p.m. at night. And then I was like, I'll just read this until I fall asleep. And then it's 12:30. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
good manga won't let you fall asleep.
Yep. It's kind of a simple story, to be honest, but I don't know. It's good dramatics. Probably the best moment is he gets a chance to face his former teacher, his shisho. And the world of shogi, there's something known as what is the Japanese term? But if you beat your master in a match, like professional match, like without like any handicaps, it's known as like repaying your master. And Azumi never got the chance, right? He dropped out at age 26. And now as he plays again and starts winning again, winning amateur tournaments, he gets a chance to face his master. And his master is also someone who used to be super ruthless, but then he was hospitalized, he kind of lost all his vigor, became more friendly, more personable, people liked him. But as they play against each other, it brings out his ferocious side again. And they just have like a crazy match. It's good stuff, good drama. Good drama for shogi.
What is it about shogi where people can make these like really like melancholic manga about like regret and and like personal growth?
I feel like that's a lot of the like traditional board game or like card game manga though. Like I haven't read Chi Hayafuru, but like I get the sense that there's a lot of drama there too.
There's a famous Japanese novel kind of about shogi, and I would suspect that heavily is probably influencing a lot of this.
Is it about a lot of like comeback stories, people fall in and then rebuilding and coming up with a new strategy? Or people like having to quit because they hit the age gap and stuff like that? Because there's a lot of limitations with shogi.
I need to look up the name of it, but I think it's like the guys definitely play matches against other people, but
Something in shogi where also, because in the game itself you can capture and then steal other people's units and use them for yourself, you constantly have to make sure your king is protected. Because if it's not, someone's just going to drop a piece in your territory and you're going to be like, checkmate, I'm fucked. Really fascinating strategies and things. Morgana, I'll teach you how to play.
Yay! I like card games and board games, like traditional ones. Yeah.
I'm really bad at shogi, but it's a fun thing, and there are plenty of free programs online.
Yeah.
Are we going to try playing Mahjong again?
Oh, I love Mahjong.
We can do that as well.
I forgot all the Mahjong rules already.
I enjoy Mahjong.
Maybe we'll do a YouTube stream of us playing Mahjong.
I gotta go lab. I gotta go lab Mahjong. I need to train.
I wish I could play Karuta, but you really need to know Japanese. But I love playing Koi Koi with Hanafuda cards.
There's actually a shogi manga right now over on Jump Plus that just started. That's getting really popular. It's about a vampire who's lived since the Edo era. He decides to start playing in amateur tournaments to try and win money because the shogi place he goes to is going to be shut down if they don't renovate. And he's always been hiding in the shadows, and he loves shogi, but he's never played, right? He kind of like plays online under an alias, but he's super strong now, and now he's in the limelight, and everyone's like, who is this amateur? We can't let this amateur beat us. But this amateur is a vampire. He's been living so long. He knows
love
all
that
the
twist.
strategies. I'll send you a link later, Morgana. Probably
Sounds
like to check it out.
Yes, I like vampires and games, so
It's fun stuff. The last thing I was reading this week that I want to talk about is Flame of Rekka.
oh wow, blast from the past.
Well, we were reading our manga for the Triple Dip on that Viz app with the manga subscription, and I was looking at it, and I was like, hey, Flame of Rekka is on here. I remember this manga by Nobuyuki Anzai. It's like the poor man's Yu Yu Hakusho.
It sure is.
Which is, it's a dismissive way of saying it, but it really is. But you know what it is? Flame of Rekka is like, it's basically Yu Yu Hakusho for kids. It's aimed at like a younger audience.
Yeah.
You know, I was reading this and I was messing around with the Viz app. I don't know. I noticed this too with we'll talk about our main segment. Sometimes a chapter would end and it would include some of the pages of the next chapter at the end of it.
Oh, interesting.
Like, whoever was actually cutting off the pages wasn't being considerate of, like, sometimes there's an extra couple pages before the splash page of the next chapter, right?
I bet you some of that is because this was never intended to be electronic. Like some of the books we've been reading, you know, they're made to be ebooks at some point. But these ones, I mean, I used to have the first, I think, 2 physical volumes of Flame of Rekka. This is, ages ago. These were not, ebooks were not a thing.
Yeah. It's so old. And there was like a volume that ended with like a bonus chapter. You know how Yu Yu Hakusho, there's that bonus story?
Mm-hmm.
I think volume 7 Yu Yu Hakusho has it with
2 shots.
2 shots, yeah.
My favorite volume.
So one of the volumes here of Flame of Rekka ended with an extra story about the girl character Fuko, and it showed like 3 pages of it, and then it just ended, and then it just cut to the next chapter. I was like, who the fuck did that? You could have included it as a 0.5 story or something, and it's just like not on there. So I was like, geez. Some small critiques for this Viz subscription app. But about Flame of Rekka itself, I read the Japanese volumes like a long time ago because this is like a series from like the 2000s. I'm gonna say early aughts, maybe.
Sounds right.
It had an anime, right? I think
so. I never watched it.
I was reading through this, and I hit a point where Rekka and all his friends started swearing like crazy, like "you fucking bitch." And like, fuck you! And I was like, am I reading a scanlation? What the fuck happened?
The scanlation by accident?
I don't know what happened. Like, I just think whoever translated that volume was going super hard on like the swears. And it was weird.
They missed the memo about the like who this is for. Like, because even Yusuke he swears, but not like a lot. It's in there,
Oh,
sparingly.
every evil female enemy was bitch this, and I don't think they said the C word, but yeah.
There was I feel like growing up, bitch was way more. I mean, it's not like a super bad word now, but like it is rude to just casually refer to women as bitches. But growing up, probably around the time where this was getting translated, it was just a little bit looser. being used.
Yeah. That's what it felt like. I was reading something translated way in the past.
Back in the old days, we enjoyed using slurs against women.
Well, there's some gay panic stuff happening in Flame Recca too, so
Oh, sure, of course.
product of the times.
Is her name Rekka? It's not Rebecca, is it?
No, the guy's
No.
name is Recca.
Oh. Okay.
Her name is Fuko.
On the cover, no, that's a princess. I forget what her name is.
Oh, I don't know. It's been literally like
The
20
ninja girl
years.
is Fuko.
It's just kind of breaking my brain seeing Rekka, thinking it's Becca or something else, but like it's not.
I mean, it's just really funny how this manga is so Yu Yu Hakusho. There's a character who has long blonde hair, and he's sad because his sister died, and he's on a revenge quest, and he's cold and ruthless, and I'm like, that's Kurama.
Yeah, that's like the Kurama / Kurapika trope or character type.
Rekka himself is like an idiot, but he's like, doesn't give up. There's a big muscle dude named Domo who has a mohawk. He's my favorite character because he's basically Kuwabara. All brains, no brains, all brawn, and never gives up.
And a big heart, right?
Yep, the biggest heart. It's dumb and it's entertaining, and I've been reading through it again. And it's fine. It's fine for what it was. And yeah, that'll wrap up my what you've been reading. Oh, I was not looking at chat at all. And just some comments about Mahjong and stuff and The Wire.
That was I mentioned when we were talking about bingo cards. The only thing we needed to mention for Tyler to get a bingo was The Wire, but we didn't. So sorry. Next week, though. I promise.
Next
The
week.
Wire talk.
I mean, we talked about it last week, I think. So really, it's just a matter of time.
All right, let's move along from what you've been reading then, and I was thinking if I wanted to talk about some stuff. One of our listeners, Vicky Dalton, was commenting about how they enjoyed our conversation on the K-Manga app and the Viz subscription. But one thing I remember that I didn't mention for that is that, at least with K-Manga, they do a lot of promotions. So for this month of May, Dark Fox, they're letting people read 5 volumes of The Fable for free.
Wow, that's decent.
Yeah, and so I was telling Vicky on our Discord that, maybe people can use K-Manga not so much as a place where they read their manga, but as a place where you can sample different manga, because they always have a rotation of like promotions. Like, you can read a bunch of these volumes of Attack on Titan, or you can read a bunch of this volumes over here, and they always like kind of rotate their promotions on what's up. Use that to take a look at a manga series that maybe you want to start.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's a good like value proposition that I wouldn't have considered, but almost like a Game Pass or a Netflix type thing where like they'll move it out, but it's there available for you sometimes.
Yeah, and if they fix some things about the K-Manga where I would say if they get rid of the censorship, maybe on their website version. I think we were saying the price of like a chapter is pretty competitive, right? Morgana, you said it's about how much a yen new chapter is.
Yeah, I think it's comparable. And I think typically, like, if you look at the price of the individual chapters, it more or less adds up to the price of a volume. In the long run. So it's not like you're spending a whole lot more.
Yeah, I mean, all the things that we said last week about being convoluted with the coins and the tickets and everything, that still stands. And trying to read for free is very slow. I'm halfway through Parasite Reversi now, I probably won't be able to finish this for a couple weeks, I think, at the rate I'm reading, so...
Just chugging along.
Just chugging along. But yeah, I just wanted to make that as an addendum to our conversation last week. Okay, before we get to our main segment, let's talk about next week. Next week, it's Twipple Dip time! It's time for us to read the next volume of something that we read before, that we want to read, because the deluxe edition of Yokohama Kaideshi Kiko number 2 is finally coming out! After weeks of me being like, yo, can we read the next deluxe edition yet? Is it out yet? It's finally coming out! This is a 3-in-1. It's a big honking thing. But we'll be able to read basically volumes 3 through 6 of Yokohama Kaideshi Kiko. And then on top of that, we're going to read the next volume of Die Dark, which will be Die Dark Volume 4. And then finally, we're going to round out with Volume 14 of Chainsaw Man. Again, this is not available in English, but the chapters are. So I'm going to go by the Japanese volumes for the chapter numbers. Actually, I should have checked that before we started streaming and recording. So let me bring that up real quick. Chainsaw Man Volume 14 goes from chapters 113 to 122. So you can read those over on the Shonen Jump app, on Manga Plus as well. Tyler is disappointed we did not pick City Hunter or Fable. I think
this
Fable.
time.
Yeah, I think Fable would be good for Twibble Dip, but not City Hunter. We'd have to use that convoluted website we did to read City Hunter in English, and that was point-based and everything.
That was rough.
Get wild and tough. Dun, 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 dun.
Isn't Wild and Free?
Pretty sure it's wild and tough.
Okay.
I heard that pretty recently. I'll bet you a burger on that one.
I don't want to owe you a burger, so I'm just gonna
Concede.
say you're right. Concede, yeah, exactly. That's not true. I'd totally buy Dark Fox a burger. I buy him 5 burgers.
Take about that much to get me satisfied. Mm.
But yes, next week, Twibble Dip, Chainsaw Man, the chapters for Volume 14, Die Dark Volume 4, and Yokohama Kaideshi Kiko Deluxe Edition 2. Stay tuned for that next week. Okay, everybody, we're going to take a quick break. We'll shut down the stream, probably about for 5 minutes. And when we come back, it'll be time to do a triple dip with a couple of manga series that are on the Viz Manga subscription. Be right back. And we're back, everyone. It's time to do our main segment, a triple dip. We got 3 manga that's available on the new Viz Manga subscription. And we are looking at the first volumes of House of 5 Leaves, Saturn Apartments, and Orochi, the Perfect Edition. Before we pick one, we should answer Chris from Canada's question in the chat about what the Manga Mac bump is. I'm going to say the Manga Mac bump this week is a chai latte. Go get a chai latte.
Delicious.
Are we going to make this more and more difficult? So we're asking them to Manga Mac bump a giant gold bar.
I mean, you already did that last week when you said a $2,000 watch, or what? What did you say?
What did I say last week? I don't remember saying that.
You said something ridiculous. That was the first time you brought it up. You said buy McDonald's and just say it's a Manga Mac bump, which is fine.
Oh yeah.
So I'm saying, go to cafe. It could be Starbucks. It could be anything. Get a chai latte. Chai lattes are good. I don't drink coffee anymore. Coffee is no bueno. It's too much caffeine. It makes my heart race.
I just don't like it.
If you missed it, Chris already Manga Mac bumped Dark. It's on Twitter. It's on our Twitter account.
Yeah, it's a good bump.
Very good. If you if you read a manga that you heard from us, consider tweeting about it and hashtag Manga Mac bumping. It's all in good fun. We will retweet it and take credit for it.
It's because we always make a joke about how we talk about something, and then months later, it's like, this is getting licensed to English. It's like, it's because of us. We did it. High five. All jokes. All jokes, everybody. But yes, getting back to our triple dip, I'm going to let Darfox pick first this time.
Ooh, okay, so here it comes again. Here's mea culpa. I did not finish House of Five Leaves. So I kind of feel like I want to pull the bandage off that one and just get my verbal beatdown from y'all for not doing the assignment.
Did you do the other ones?
Yeah, already.
Okay.
It was better than last time.
But last time,
Sorry.
I wasn't going to say anything this time, Morgana, but
No.
Morgana.
We've truly become a book club because like someone now is just like, yeah, I never read it, or like I didn't finish it.
Excuse me. So
Well, there
I
you
say
go.
House of Five Leaves. That's my pick.
Okay. Let's start off with The House of Five Leaves, a manga by Natsume Ono. The Japanese title was Saraya Goyo. This was a manga that ran in Ikki magazine from Shogakukan, which explains why it's here on the Viz Manga subscription. They have a lot of Shogakukan manga on here now. This was a manga back from 2006. It's 8 volumes total, all available from Viz. You know what? I realized I don't have localization credits for this because we read on the app. And I didn't see it on there unless I missed it. Did I miss that?
I'm looking
No, I
through
didn't
the
see it.
Viz website, and I don't see it here either.
If you look at the chapter 7, which is like, it was chapters 1 through 7, which is volume 1, unless they have it at the end of that. I'm trying to look at my chapter list on my phone on my app, and it's not letting me. Yeah, I don't see it. So I'm sorry. Usually I give localization credits, but because we're using the app, it's not on here. That's a strike against the Viz app.
Yeah, I remember when I was reviewing books, and the advanced copies I would get didn't have localization credits, and I'd go to Shonen Jump app and they didn't have localization credits, so I had to like dig for, to find out some of that stuff. So it's not great. And Viz does not put it on the website. So help us help localization teams, and please tell us who does what, because we
You
want
know who
people to
has
know.
localization credits? K Manga app. Ooh.
Oh, yikes.
Ooh.
That's a
Maybe
point
you're
in their
not so
favor.
bad after all, Manga.
But yes, let me read the copy over on Viz for Volume 1. Masterless Samurai Akitsu Mananosuke is a skilled and loyal swordsman, but his naive, diffident nature has more than once caused him to be let go by the lords who employ him. Hungry and desperate, he agrees to become a bodyguard for Yaichi, a charismatic leader of a group calling itself Five Leaves. Although disturbed by the gang's sinister activities, Masa begins to suspect that Yaichi's motivations are not what they seem. And despite his misgivings, the deeper he's drawn into the world of the Five Leaves, the more he finds himself fascinated by these devious, mysterious outlaws. So there you go. Natsume Ono doing a manga that's not about Americana.
or
Italia.
Italians. Yes.
Yep.
I found the English staff listing on Anime News Network. I just
thank
sent you. I sent you a link. But it looks like translation is by Joe Yamazaki, design by Courtney Utt, editing by Layla Aker, and touch-up art and lettering by Gia Cam Luke.
Thank you, Morgana. I'm going to have to use this for the other 2 series we read as well.
I have the Umez book in physical edition, so I can give those to you easily.
Thank you. Well, yeah, let's talk about House of Five Leaves, a manga that is actually about samurai and the Edo era of Japan by Natsume Ono. It's kind of shocking to read a series by Natsume Ono. It's about like more Japan. Dar, how much of this did you get to read?
First chapter.
I mean, that's not bad. That's better than not reading anything.
I started it, and I was going to try and skim through it, but I was like, this is a little bit too, like, plot heavy for me to just, like, bullshit my way through it, so... I didn't want to come up here and be like, oh, yeah, you know, that part with, the guy, he did the thing, you know. I saw the setup of it, and the kind of introduction to the main character.
Yeah, what do you think, Dar? You've read like a fair bit of Natsume Ono at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the guy is kind of interesting because he's kind of sentimental and he has a very strong like idea of how he should act as a samurai. So he doesn't like taking certain kind of jobs. But of course, he ends up being forced to take this job, and I don't know. I think the main character is kind of interesting. I don't know anything about like the actual guy who hired him, the head of the Five Leaves.
Yaich, yeah.
I don't know if I was picking up any kind of like romance things between them. I don't know if this book goes in that direction or not. But I felt like that could have been a possibility.
I thought similarly when I read the first chapter. I was like, ooh, I got some possible BL vibes here between the 2 characters. That could still happen. It could still happen, but so far in Volume 1, not so much.
I could just really see the whole like kind of teasing nature of one over the other. But with gentleness. But that was purely just imagined, wondering as I read it.
All right. Morgana, what did you think of House of Five Leaves?
Well, I liked it because it's Natsume Ono, and I just inherently like her work.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I like it as much as some of her other stuff. It's a very different tone, very different setting, but like the characters are just really, I feel like Akits is like, I don't know, his timid nature seems very different than characters in some of her other, I feel like a lot of them are sassy, maybe because they're like European or American and he's like Japanese. I don't know like what the difference is here, but no, but I enjoyed it, and I like the so we have this band of outlaws essentially, and they kidnap people. They're basically hired to kidnap people for various reasons, and Akits tries to be like, well, maybe they're like good guy, like bandits, like who,
like Robin Hood,
yeah,
punish
exactly.
those bad like merchants that are stealing money from the poor.
But Yaich doesn't really like. He's kind of less romantic about it than that. So I'm very curious about him and his background, and obviously so is Akits. There are women. There are actually quite a few women in this, and I feel like in a lot of Natsume Ono's work that I've read, the women are kind of. There are a lot of my favorite stuff of hers is a lot of relationships between men, whether it's like romantic relationships or like father-son relationships. There's a lot of those kinds of relationships explored, and That's true here too. There's a lot of like men interacting, but there are women characters who kind of have a role and do things. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. I don't.
I like
Oh.
it. I don't know. I just don't know that it's like. It's not my favorite. I'll tell you right now. I would read more. I would like. It's only like what 5, 7 volumes. It's very short.
I think it's 8 volumes. Yeah, 8 volumes.
Yeah. So I would definitely read more of it. I'm interested and I'm curious. But it's not, Tesoro or some of her other like short story things that I really like.
Say no, Ristorante Paradiso. Seamus, what did you think of House of Five Leaves?
I think like a lot of Natsume Ono stuff. I'm like, I like the arts. Everything else, it's very like.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Like just the characters and the plot and all. I'm like, I'm not too pushed to read anymore. Keep reading this. But I don't know. I think in general her stuff, I've never really been a fan of like the plot, the characters, or anything like that. Unless it's like very short. It's really not simple. Did I like that? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think you know what it is. I'm so used to her short story collections, and that's not to say I mean, because I have not actually read all of Akka. I'm so used to her short stories that I think this feels so different, and maybe it's just that difference that makes me think not that I don't like it, but I like it less because I like her like short, succinct, moody little stories.
Really interesting to hear everybody talk about this because I love this. I thought this was great, and I was surprised how much I liked it because I've read so much Natsume Ono, and almost none of it is about Japan and, something so Japanese as samurai in the Edo period. I will definitely be reading the rest of this series as soon as we're done podcasting. I almost read all 8 volumes, but I held myself back for this podcast. Do I think this is Natsume Ono's best work? No. I think Akka continues to be one of the best things she's ever written. And I do enjoy a lot of her other stuff as well, but this is up there. This is definitely up there. The only moment where I thought I was unsure of this was in the end of chapter 1, where Masa, the main character, the samurai, the timid one, he goes out with Yaichi to get the exchange of like the ransom money, and he has to protect Yaichi by pulling out his sword, and it's an action scene. And I was looking at that page for like quite a long time, being like, this is like the difference between Natsume Ono and someone like Yusuke Murata who draws One Punch Man. It's that there's almost little dynamism to the action. Such a minimalist thing where like almost nothing is happening.
Yeah, it's not her forte.
It's not. But what is her forte is these characters and their relationships and how they look. I love the art style, her frog-eyed people.
I love her froggy art.
Mm-hmm.
I love her froggy art. I love Asumika Nakamura's noodle people. The weird women drawing weird people is like that's my brand.
I was very, very interested in wanting to read more of this, and it's kind of a.
Yeah, I feel like I understated how I enjoyed this. I definitely did. I am comparing it to her other work because it's just so different, but I did like it. I'm also very tired today, so I might not be like articulating myself very well, but it's just very different. It's very different from her other work, so it's kind of fascinating.
I think it's fair to read a book and be like, this wasn't objectionable, and in fact, it was enjoyable, but it wasn't like passionately like a good read.
I mean, that's the thing Seamus was saying, right? Like, the plot and the characters don't really interest him. I would argue that I like the characters. I mean, the problem is they are kind of rote. A timid samurai hanging out with this, charismatic outlaw, and then this group of outlaws, they all have their own motivations, and you get to see how things are starting to play out. Will Masa join them? He probably will.
He basically has.
Yeah. But, like, how long is he going to drag his feet about this before he decides to join? Is the series going to be over when he joins? Is he eventually going to join and then, like, he's going to get more involved in finding out about Yaichi's, background? That seems to be the main mystery here. But it's not, like, exceptionally, different. I've seen this before. This kind of story exists.
I really like the chef and his daughter.
Ume, yeah.
Ume, and I can't remember her name. But they're great.
Yes.
I just something I love about a like dad, like rough appearing dad type who like clearly loves his daughter and is like, I don't know. It's that whole like delinquent with a heart of gold thing, but you kind of transfer it to like tough guy dad instead.
Yeah, Delinquent grew up to be a bald cook chef.
Bald daddy chef with a precious little princess.
He talks about it as like, my past. I used to be on the side of the law. I've reformed a little, but I just can't get away from who I am. But I'm also a dad now.
Love that shit.
It's good, but it is rote. The only setting thing here is the main character, Masa, him being a samurai but being so timid. Despite the fact he seems very capable as a swordsman. Like, super strong, actually. But yeah, I'm really not sure what else to say about the series, though, besides that I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like not a whole lot has happened, despite the fact that it was like 7 chapters. Like, we get introduced to all the characters and kind of what's going on, and I feel like we only just hit the tip of the iceberg of the story in this, like, in a full volume. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, we saw Masa get involved with a new, case or crime, if you want to call it, where he gets set up to be the Yojimbo, or the bodyguard for a rice merchant, and he befriends a young boy there. And as soon as that happened, I was like, I know exactly what's going to happen. They're going to end up kidnapping this boy, and Masa's going to feel really bad about it. And that's what happens. So, there you go. No surprises. But I do want to read more. I want to read another volume of this. How do you feel, Morgana?
yeah, I want to read more.
But I'm going to guess a no from Seamus.
Correct.
Okay. How do you want to do this, Dar? What about you?
I'm intrigued enough that I would read the first volume.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll move along from House of Five Leaves then. Morgana, I'll let you pick the next one.
All right, let's take a real genre shift. Let's go to Saturn Apartments.
Okay. So we read the first volume of Saturn Apartments, a manga series by Hisai Iwaoka. This was a manga from back in 2005. It also ran in Ikki magazine. 7 volumes total, put out in English by Viz. I need to look up the localization here.
I sent you a link in the chat.
Thank you, Morgana.
You're welcome.
Let's see. We have translation by Rachel Thorne. There's also credit to Tomo Kimura. Designed by Sean Carrico and Yukiko Whitley. Editing Danielle Gillespie, Megan Bates. Touch-up art and lettering by Eric Urbies. Let me read the copy for Volume 1 on Viz. Far in the future, humankind has evacuated the Earth in order to preserve it. Humans now reside in a gigantic structure that forms a ring around the Earth. 35 kilometers up in the sky, the society of the ring is highly stratified. The higher floor, the greater status. Mitsu, the lowly son of a window washer, has just graduated junior high. When his father disappears and is assumed dead, Mitsu must take on his father's occupation. As he struggles with the transition to working life, Mitsu's job treats him to an outsider's view into the living room dioramas of the Saturn Apartments. So yeah, there you go. That copy basically sums it up. It's in the future. It's like they've made a ring around Earth, which is like, I'm not sure how that works, but
just go with it.
Just go with it. Yeah, it's like weird. The story is like
Put
weird.
on your Star Trek hat and go with it.
Weird future with like lo-fi things as like window cleaners. There's even a story at the end of Volume 1 where someone thinks about like making a robot that will window clean. Is like the end of that story is, but you know what? You can't just replace humans. And I read that story at the end of this volume and I was thinking, I don't know if that's true right now with all this AI bullshit talk that's happening.
But also, if we're gonna have robots replace humans at anything, it's something menial like washing windows.
Yeah.
Not like making art and poetry.
Yeah. Yeah, Morgana, let's talk more about what you thought of Saturn Apartments.
I thought it was fine. I thought I like the artwork. I do like it's very different. I like Isaiwaka's artwork. Is it Iwaka? Iwaka. I don't know.
Oh, another female creator.
Yes, yeah, which is cool. I think my tolerance of science fiction manga is kind of like, it's kind of weird. I don't know what I look for in sci-fi manga, I think. Cuz sometimes I really love it and sometimes I'm just like, meh, I don't know. And maybe that's true of all my science fiction consumption these days, but it did kind of feel like we're telling stories that don't need to be told in space. You know what I mean? Like
that's the vibe I got too.
We just kind of put it there. I mean, the setting is cool. It's a neat idea, but like, I don't know. Sometimes it's a little hard to parse the action or the speech in this particular edition.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably give this a 3 out of 5 stars. Let's put it that way. I think it was maybe like a 2.5. I think it was fine. I'm not tripping over myself to read more.
Yeah, it's, you know what? It doesn't help that we read Planetes this year. And it's just like, if you're going to do a sci-fi story kind of like this, about people doing mundane jobs in a space science fiction setting, I need something like Planetes where like you did the world building enough where I feel like it needs to have enough meaning instead of me questioning if like you did this setup just so you can have status and you can draw certain things. Like I like what was drawn of like the lower decks, how the apartments are stacked very high and it kind of looks like something out of even like what, Kowloon.
Yeah. I'm also like, I don't know how I feel about this weird caste system they have set up. Like if you're born in the lower apartments, you can never like work anywhere like up in the upper, the mid or upper levels. It's like, okay, why though? Like, is this
Because
like
it's
a
more dramatic for the story, Morgana. That's the
right?
feel I got.
Right, but I'm just wondering, like, is the story actually going to get to the point where they talk about the politics of this, or is it just going to be kind of like this is how it is? Dystopia.
I hate to say it, I think it's going to be the latter, but also I don't know if I want to read more to find out, which is my problem with this series.
Yep.
Yeah, but you're haters of this book. What's going on?
Hold on, Darfox. We're not going to go to you yet. Let's go to Seamus. Let's keep this hate train rolling.
Why do you think I'd hate it?
Odds are you're gonna.
Wait, did you like this?
No, not really. But it doesn't mean I hate it. I think I need to clarify for people who listen to the podcast. There's very few things I actually hate, because to hate something I have to give a shit. Most things I just don't give a shit. I'm just like, oh, it's a thing that exists. I'm not going to read any more of it. You know, it's like most of the things in the world. They exist. I don't care. This was. I don't know what to make of it. It's you mentioned Planet X, and I immediately jumped to that, and it was kind of like you were kind of like, why is it in space? I was more kind of thinking in terms of like you were kind of addressing there. I was like, are they ever going to address the whole 3-level thing? Because I was just like, already just like, oh, it's something they probably saw somewhere else in another science fiction thing. I was like, oh, we'll do that. It'll be like High Rise, or I don't know, whatever. Or God knows how many stories there that have a similar structure.
Right, and that's the other thing, is that kind of like oppressing the lower class. I mean, not that there is not in real life the oppression of lower classes, but this kind of story where like it's kind of more like a caste system is not new to science fiction by any means. And I think if you're gonna do it, I want you to justify it a little bit.
Well,
almost zero justification here.
Snowpiercer is singularly about that. And that's why it kind of works pretty well, because it's just kind of like this very hyper-specific concept, like this microcosm like projecting to this microcosm into a train, right?
That was a good movie. I've actually seen that one.
Yeah, Snowpiercer's a good time.
It was also very strange, but I remember enjoying it mostly.
Gotta eat those cockroach cubes.
Yeah. Hey,
delicious,
you know.
Hey, you know what? A controversial statement from Darfox. I'm okay with a future of cockroach cubes as long as it's like processed and like cleanly done.
Even though bugs were like your yuck factor on that food test we took recently.
yeah, but like they're my yuck factor because they're like gross and walking around the ground. But like if they look completely different and I know they're clean because they've been made into food or some shit, like I'm okay with the bug superfood of the future.
You fry up some crickets and they're clean. You just burned away all the impurities.
I haven't tried fried crickets yet. I don't think I ever will. But
I'll be honest with you, they're fine. They're nothing exciting. They taste like fingernails. I mean, they taste like whatever you put on them.
Oh my god, that's awful.
Well, no, because they're like chitin, right? They're just like shell. They're not flavorful. I'm talking about little ones, chipolines, like tiny ones. I did have some in Mexico because when in Mexico you eat crickets, they're not that exciting. Personally, they taste like chili lime or whatever seasoning you put on them.
I've heard like
delicious
grasshoppers and stuff described as shrimp shells.
Yeah,
they're a little grassy.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, if you think about it, I don't know how you feel about shrimp or lobster or crab, Dar, but those are just sea bugs.
No, I agree. I don't like shrimp and lobsters, just because they look like sea cockroaches. So
they're so delicious.
They're so good.
That's my big. I haven't really had them. I had a little bit of them. I don't know.
I grew up in New England, so we've had.
We're gonna rectify all this when we all go to Japan together.
Yes, I had lobster for Mother's Day. It was delicious.
I saw that. What are we talking about again?
Snowpiercers and the caste system.
Oh,
wait,
yeah,
wait. Okay, Dar.
Right.
What did you think of Saturn Apartments?
I think I like it more than y'all, but not that much more. I think this is when people say something is like better than the sum of its parts, this is like the opposite. Where I think all the bits are there to be interesting. It has like the blue collar work in a sci-fi setting that's kind of interesting. Well, it's a great hook. One of the things that drew me to Plan Test. It has potential social commentary with like the caste system. It has nice little melancholic kind of storyline about like the young man who's an orphan, but he's multiple people are kind of taking care of him. It's almost like it takes a village to raise a kid kind of thing. I kind of like all of these bits, but the manga doesn't really kind of flow with any of them, I feel.
I think, like, to me, it has all those things, and it's done in the most, like, boring way possible. Not boring, but, like...
Generic, yeah.
Generic, yeah, sorry, yeah. Generic's a good... It's just, like, okay, yeah, I like the cast system. It's like, okay, I've seen this before on other things, and, like, they've done it more interesting. It's just... I nearly... Because it's, I don't know, it's on the visa, but, like, maybe I give it, like, a bit of a second volume just to be like, is this actually going anywhere? And if not, I'll be like, alright, well, that's the end of that.
I don't know. I read that final chapter in this volume that I mentioned about, like, the scientists that kept asking them to re-clean the window because he was taking data on the cleaning so he can make his window cleaning robot. And he's like, you can't replace humans. And I'm thinking, in this kind of future, wouldn't you just have robots doing this kind of dangerous shit and not regular people? It made me question, like, the entire setup of this manga. Why do you have regular humans wiping windows when robots could easily be doing that? You already made a fucking ring around the earth!
Right? We didn't think that far ahead? Like,
yeah, it just made everything really kind of fall apart.
To be fair, we've made these machines that fly across the world, but my zipper still gets stuck when I try and zip up my jacket. It's like...
I don't know if that's the same.
It's just like not everything is solvable.
I think they do have window cleaning robots now, actually.
I mean, you can get a robot vacuum and they can map your house. And I mean, I feel like if we don't have window cleaning robots, we're not far. You can have a vacuum that like lives in your wall and can like, I don't think human window cleaners are necessary in this potential future that exists in Saturn Apartments.
Exactly.
The Roomba's been around for a while.
All it takes is somebody wanting to make it. At this point, nobody's wanted to make the window cleaning robot. That's what I'm saying.
So we risk lives instead.
Yeah. Well, that's why that guy in the last chapter was the real hero. He's trying to figure it out.
We can't replace humans with robots, so please go off and fall out into the atmosphere.
Because it's more dramatic, Morgana. More drama. Man, speaking of drama, remember there's a chapter that there's a guy who hated the main kid? I was like, I hate you because you've been pampered and you don't know anything. And nothing happens.
Nothing happens. And it was also some, like, I don't know, middle school bullshit. Kind of like I have no clue how old this protagonist is supposed to be. Like at first I thought he might have just graduated high school, but now
that's
I'm like,
what I thought until I read the copy.
Yeah.
So I guess he's like 15-ish, let's say 15, 16.
I have no. It was very hard to tell from the context of the book.
I mean, the character art is like squish deformed, and it's fine. Like. You got the gruff old veteran who's helping him.
I do like him, but I have a weakness for gruff old men too.
Yes, and then like the main kid fucks up in the first chapter, and like.
So what manga are you reading?
Wait, this is Saturn Apartments.
Yeah, I don't remember fucking in this manga.
No, he fucks up, not fucking. The kid fucks up and like almost like falls. It was in the first chapter.
I thought you said fucks him. I was like, what?
Okay, that's not what I said. That would be a very
That's-
different manga.
Extraordinarily different. I might have a different opinion.
Yeah, I probably would have been like, whoa, this is really interesting now.
And very strange.
Yes.
And illegal.
Well, now that we know his age, yeah. I don't know.
Is that how his father died? He was fucking on the side of the ring.
Stop.
We've gotten there now. Welcome to Manga Machinations.
Actually, well, I think at that altitude, surely, like, stuff would freeze.
This is like the conversation we had in Planet Test about how you would have sex in orbit.
Oh, yes.
Oh, and zero gravity.
Aerosol can't and all, yeah.
I think there's not technically zero gravity.
Atlantis?
I think it's just... No, I think here...
No, they have gravity here.
Yeah.
No, but like, shouldn't they have less gravity here? Because... No, actually, I guess that makes sense, because they're not out of the atmosphere yet.
But the point is, they would still freeze their junk.
Yes.
Yes.
And possibly also suffocate themselves, because they can't take off their helmets, right? So... And they have like oxygen tanks. I don't know. Unless they're like the bottom part of their suits are... You know what? I don't want to think about this anymore.
I could keep following the train of thought, and I think we can stop.
You don't want to talk about the cat that was in its own little like vacuum suit?
That was pretty awesome, though.
That might have been the only good part of this book. I mean, cats are always a good part of any book.
Even when they're like killing people.
Are you talking about that one where the people shrank?
Yeah, Alice
Okay.
in Wonderland.
That
No,
what was
just
it called?
Wonderland.
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 Yeah, that's a different book. That's a webtoon, I think.
What? No, it was on a webtoon. It was a Japanese one by the guy who did Sprite.
No, Alice in Borderland. I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
No, we're talking Alice in, yeah. That's a Korean book, I think.
No, that's also a Japanese book.
Alice in Borderland.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me put my camera back on. Hold on.
That's the one. There's a live action drama that's really popular, right?
I'm giving you the side eye. I don't know about that one. I'll
So
take
we
your word-
all have access to the internet here.
I'm too busy crocheting. Sorry. You guys look it up.
Alice in Borderland. All right. Original language Japanese. By God. Oh wait. This is the TV show. Okay. Comic.
It was based on a manga.
Yes.
Foxy, didn't you talk about this years ago?
Yes.
Sorry, Dar. I think.
I can't keep track of everything I talked about. Are you kidding me?
I mean, that's fair. And I'm pretty sure, like, this was a manga from way back, so probably, like, the beginning years of Manga Machinations. The Japanese title is Imawa no Kuni no Aris. Ran in Shonen Sunday.
Right. I don't know why I thought it was a Korean book.
The funny thing is, this manga artist is now doing the Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead manga with a totally different art style. It's pretty funny.
Y'all gotta see some live Googling on the podcast.
Our very vigorous research process here on Manga Machinations. What does it say in Wikipedia?
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything else to say about Saturn Apartments? I feel kind of bad because I feel like we dumped all over this, but
It's fine. If you want some sci-fi that's kind of meaningless, go for it. That sounds worse, I guess.
If you want some sci-fi, check it out. It might be meaningful to you. It maybe wasn't for us.
Read Planet Hits.
yeah. Morgana, would you read another volume of Saturn Apartments?
Probably not willingly. Like, if you really twisted my arm and wanted to read it on the podcast, I'd read another one, but like I'm not gonna go to the Viz app that I have downloaded and go devour the rest of this anytime soon.
Odds of us forcing you to read this are very low.
Yes.
That's kind of what I thought, yeah.
Darfox, would you read more of Saturn Apartments?
I might say yes. I'm just curious if it does anything in 1 or 2, or if it's just kind of more, I don't know, more wishy-washy in how it was in the first volume.
Seamus, I think you said similarly you might read another volume.
Yeah, like, just because, well, I've read that anyway, so.
I don't know, man. I was kind of like, while reading this, being like, well, maybe I'll keep reading. Then I just hit that stupid window robot chapter, and I'm more with Morgana. We twist our arms to read more, I will, but I don't think willingly I would like to read any more Saturn Apartments. I'm okay. Alright, it's time to move on to our final manga of this triple dip, Orochi. We got the perfect edition from Viz. It's a manga by Kazuo Umez. This is a manga from 1969. It is old school classic Kazuo Umez. 4 volumes total put out by Viz in the Perfect Collection. Morgana, you said you have physical copy, right? So
I do. It is here in my hand. Translation by our friend Jocelyn Allen. English adaptation by Molly Tanzer. Lettering by Evan Waldinger. Design Adam Grano. Editor Joel Enos.
Very nice. The copy over at Viz says, Umez's classic horror manga opens with Sisters, in which Orochi affects the lives of 2 wealthy siblings who couldn't be more alike, or more different. Next, in Bones, Orochi helps a man come back to life after a terrible accident, but the resurrection can be a deadly business. This is a perfect edition, so I'm assuming with the length of this was like a double volume. That's my guess.
I think so, yeah. And the physical editions are hardcover with a beautiful metallic title. Maybe I'll take a picture and put it on our new Instagram.
Yes. What's our Instagram address?
At
Manga
Manga
Back
Back
Podcast.
Podcast.
Yep, same as
Very
Twitter.
nice. Follow our Instagram. Morgana will be posting stuff. Darfox Stew. Let's see. Seamus, we'll throw to you first. What did you think of Kazuo Umez's Orochi Volume 1?
I really liked it.
Wow,
I
that's
think
surprising.
we read. What was it? Do we read the Cat-Eyed Boy by him before?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, for back in our one of our first October extravaganzas.
This reminded me of that, but like I liked it a lot more. I'm not sure why.
Probably because Cat-Eyed Boy is really for kids. Like, I really think it's like the humor and like even the horror is a little bit more playful, whereas this was a little bit more like played straight, I think. This really reminded me of like EC horror, like classic horror comics from the US. It was very much in the same time period, very much in the same style, where everything is like, oh, shock, oh, terrible faces, everything's awful.
Wow, I'm so surprised Seamus liked this so much.
They're gonna look. I'd like one of them, like surely. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been on this podcast.
I mean, that's fair, and we've read a lot of things that you've liked, but I didn't think... Because I remember when we did Cat-Eye Boy, you were kind of like, it's okay.
Well, see, from what I remember of Cat-Eyed Boy, there was like parts of it I liked around like some of the kind of art, but overall, I was like, eh. Maybe yeah, like Samuel Corn. Maybe it was like this is maybe the aim for slightly older groups, so it's like not as kid focused. Although not really a supernatural either, I guess it's a lot more like relatively mundane compared to Cat-Eyed Boy.
Yeah, like Orochi clearly has some supernatural abilities, but it's not like the problems she faces are not really made from the supernatural. They're like normal things that are weird.
Does the Orochi mean anything Japanese?
It is the name. It says on the back of the book, I think. Sorry, that's me thumping around. It is a legendary multi-tailed serpent.
Okay, that makes sense because
Yeah.
Orochimaru is the snake guy from Naruto.
Yeah.
Yep. Darfox, what do you think of Orochi?
I liked it. I think it's really weird how she has like this huge set of powers that isn't well defined. She could do seemingly anything. But it worked for the stories. Like,
That's because Umaze isn't like I'm trying to think. It's a good word for this.
superhero mark.
Shit.
I don't know. Yeah, Kazuma isn't a piece of trash. Hack Rider,
Jeff Johns,
Jeff Johns.
Brandon Sanderson. Or I guess to put it better, it's like I think Umaze is like, okay, what story do I want to tell? Brand will give her the powers. Like I don't think he like mapped out his fucking world.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. It's not like he said, "Oh, Orochi could do this and that." It's like this would be interesting or creepy to put in this thing. So, hey, now she can project her eyes on this painting and keep tabs on the story, so that we can see through her eyes, kind of like the final, you know, the final bit of the story that wraps up the sister story. That makes it like extra twisted or tragic or whatever, however you want to interpret it. But like it's just kind of random.
So what did you do now?
Bit.
Get on to Jeff Johns there and be like, go on, Jeff. Do your usual hack job there and tie it all together. Some way that we'll have Seamus being like, why is this man getting employed?
that lack of explanation is kind of part of what reminded me of like EC horror comics, and stuff from like the 40s and 50s in the US. Stuff that is kind of just like, we're just gonna make it scary to make it scary, and there's no reason or rhyme for any of this. It's just weird. Which I kind of like. It's just kind of absurd.
I mean, it fits the comic medium super well, because it is very like just pick up and read, and you don't need any more other context for it besides what's provided in the story. But yeah, like I like the art. Some of the characters were really simplistic, but I think again, it's just like the format of the story makes it kind of better that way. I think I like, even though it was a lot shorter, I think I like Sisters more than Bones.
I agree.
Because Sisters has the whole like, well, like it's kind of feel like there's more going on there, just because it has like the weird fear of being ugly and like the societal pressure of like trying to be pretty, and the ageist like switch. Once you're over this age, then you're no longer worthwhile, like twisting these girls up and turning them against each other, and surprise scheme at the end by one of the sisters who you thought was like the nice sister. Turns out she's just a really good freaking schemer, and she knew how to manipulate her other sister to fuck herself up. It's a big brain move from her.
Yep.
Whereas the Bones, I think that one does have some texture too, some societal fears, but like it just didn't pop as much as the sisters kind of psychosis.
That's also like
go ahead.
like twice the length, so I don't know if like that. I kind of do wonder if it works better if it's shorter and you're not just like trying to explain too much or do too much. You're just like, because even if you think of it in terms of like the sister one was like all in literally like one building, like 3 characters, a fairly short period of time, where I think with the second one it's kind of like more expansive in terms of the plotting and like places and times and scales, and it's like, I don't know, does that work as well? Because there's kind of a lot more going on beyond just like a very simple like thing that you can just kind of drill down on and kind of go very deep on, like how much the one sister just manipulated. Like it like literally, she's like, "Oh, you can, beat me all you want," and all this stuff, and it's like, "Oh, it's so tragic," and then it's like, "Nah, I'm just fucking with you."
The true horror.
What was Orochi thinking when she was peeping in that picture, or watching that shit go down? Was she like, "God damn, what the fuck? My God."
Well, yeah, right, because she's like the kind of the audience surrogate.
I also love how she's like, I normally don't get attached, and then in both of these stories, she's like really concerned for the victims, like
Yeah.
clearly trying to help.
I feel like also, sorry, in Bones, it was also like she caused a lot of like the issue by reviving the husband and stuff. Where in Sister, she didn't really directly cause anything. I don't think. I'm trying to remember.
Nope. No, she just kind of was there.
Well, I mean, she snuck in. She brainwashed them so she could live there.
Right? Yeah. But
she didn't cause the problems.
Yeah. It's not like she made the curse or anything like that. But in Bones, she was like, "Good news! I brought your husband back to life," and stuff like that. That actually reminded me of Frankenfran, which is just like,
yes, me too, actually.
Doing kind of like, occult or mad science stuff that's successful, but like twisted in a way, not actually helpful.
Morgana, what did you think about Orochi? You own the volume.
I do. I own the first two, actually. And I don't regret buying them because I fucking loved it. I'm sure you're all shocked to discover. This is totally my shit. You have this like supernatural character coming in and meting out justice and just desserts, whether she intends to or not, on these people who are actually kind of terrible. Love it. I love it. And the artwork is gorgeous. I like Umez's art. I might even like this more than Cat-Eyed Boy. I love Cat-Eyed Boy. I love the the pee jokes and the everything about it, but it is definitely intended for a younger audience. This is a little bit more sophisticated, and like I said, just a little bit more of that like 60s kind of counterculture comics, except that it ran in a major magazine, of course, but in the United States it would have been a little bit more. We still had the comics code at the time, so it would have been restricted. Yeah, I loved it. I had a great time with it. I was actually this is funny. So on Fridays I have this standing appointment at the hospital to have the baby's heart monitored. Everything is fine. It's totally standard. We're just keeping tabs on it. And I was reading this like while I'm sitting hooked up to like this monitor, and I'm finished, and the nurse comes in. She's like, "Oh, what are you reading? Anything good?" Because it's like a hardcover book. It looks like a novel, and I was like, it's just a comic book. She's like, "Oh," and I'm like, I'm not a good manga ambassador. Like, I don't know how to talk about this with like a random stranger.
No,
but also, it's like the weirdest thing I could. It's not just like a comic. It's like the weirdest thing I could possibly be reading right now is like this like twisted horror shit while like I'm making sure my baby's heart is beating regularly. Like,
I think we've all been there, and I always just say comic. I never say manga.
yeah, because I don't know who knows the context.
Yeah, and I also don't know who knows the context of manga fans being weird and be like, "It's a manga, you can't call it a comic book." So like, I also don't want to think I'm one of those people in case they do know.
Oh, you're one of those people, Dar. We all are.
Yeah, I mean it's comic books. It's sequential art.
And And it's not like I'm embarrassed. Like I'm still reading it, but I just don't know how to like engage with people who don't know anything about it because I literally engage with manga people all day, every day.
Oh, we're not embarrassed about it, but it's more of a pain in the ass to have to explain to like
Yeah.
the commoners or people who don't know.
Sorry, Karens all over the world, but I don't know how to talk to you about books.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to talk to you about books.
That's also fair. The nurse is very nice. I liked her very much. The other funny thing is I was very distracted because in the room I was in, they had the TV on, and it was some ridiculous show about like young Amish people being like brought into modern society and like shown the ways of the modern world, and they get to decide whether they like leave the Amish lifestyle behind. And I'm like, this
that's
is
a real thing.
terrible. Yes, but it's like this was like a televised reality show of that, and it felt super uncomfortable to be like, come innocent Amish people and enjoy capitalism. Like,
and drugs.
yeah, it's just like I'm like I don't feel comfortable like watching this like difficult and vulnerable decision being made on live television.
It was probably on TLC.
It was on TLC. It was definitely because
They
even the
have
nurse.
no shame.
No, the nurse was like, "What is on in here? I don't know what's going on." She looks. She goes, "Oh, it's TLC. That explains it." I'm like, "Yeah." I would have turned it off, but it was a shared room, so it's not like I could be like, "Just get this out of here."
In my experience, usually, okay, so it was an actual room for patients.
Yeah, it was.
Wasn't like the waiting. Like
No,
HGTV is what's on every single like
Yes.
doctor's office. Just all these shows about house flipping and stuff, which is it's because it's like supposed to be like really harmless content. There's very little political content to it. But even though I hate all these weird shows where all these weird people flipping houses and doing all this like real estate stuff.
And I would argue that there like is something political about it.
Yes, no, there definitely is. The gentrification is fucking like dripping down the fucking walls of that show, or with all the shows.
I will say I've also been in waiting rooms where they're straight up playing the news and talking about like Trump, and I'm like, let's watch the house flipping, please.
Yes, yeah.
I was in one waiting room where they had Law and Order SVU playing, and this was to have my heart.
Oh God!
This was to have my heart monitored. So this is like the cardiac. Like I'm like, why are you giving me this? And I'm pregnant, right? And I'm sitting there, and the episode is about finding a baby dead in the trash. And I'm like,
Christ!
And you know, these are all based on a true story. And I'm like, what the fuck are you playing in here? Turn this off. We are all here to have our hearts monitored. We don't need this kind of stress. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
Well, I would like to say I'm glad you all enjoyed Orochi. I was worried.
Were you?
Yeah, well, I read it and I thought, this is okay. I kind of feel at this point like I have a higher expectation for Kazuo Ume's than I think there actually should be. I want to be going in and seeing some really crazy art stuff. I think what I have in my head is not what is there. And so I read this first volume, and I thought it was all fine. It didn't really stand out to me, except I got to the point where in the second story, Bones, the husband is crawling out of his like grave and the dirt, and that looks fantastic. It's because it's raining and everything, and there's this one page of his hand like grabbing the dirt. It looks so good.
Wasn't that like a whole sequence? Or was it that part or another part where it's like it all takes place and like the rain is like heavily falling? I think that was a bit that stood out to me art-wise as well. Was just like how much rain there was. Well, how many lines there was for the rain, I would say.
Yeah. So much detail, so much work. It was really good. But you know, as far as like, I like both stories, but the twist in the sisters was good. Bones is like living dead situation, but I've seen that story before. I just think to myself after I finished it, it's a real shame that 14 or 14 is not available in English, because reading about fucking super mutant Chicken George is some weird ass Kazume's shit, which I feel like we would be able to go hard on. So I was worried that I know Morgana would love this. You love Kazume's. I figured Dark Fox would like it. That's why I'm so surprised that Seamus is like, I liked it.
I think part of what I like about Umez, and this is true of Junji Ito too, and I think and Hideshi Hino, and I think they all get kind of placed on this pedestal, which is fair because they're all excellent. But at the end of the day, their work is like kind of trashy. Like it's like I would equate it to like mass market paperback trash reading. Like it's something you read because like it's indulgent and weird, not because it's like high art. So when I approach any of their work, I kind of approach it from that lens where I'm like, this is going to be fun. I'm going to have a good time. And like the EC comics, EC horror stuff, it's just kind of like, I don't know. And I don't want to say trashy like to denote that it's bad, but it's just like entertainment for the sake of entertainment. I really like think of it that way.
It's not like an art film or anything,
right? And I do think it transcends that to a degree. I think these are very like Umez is obviously very talented, very skilled, and his work should. I don't want to diminish his work at all, but I do think at the end of the day, it's really just intended to be fun and weird more than he. I don't see him trying to make a masterpiece necessarily.
No, and maybe that's not what I'm looking for, but his reputation of being like, one of the greatest like classic horror manga artists out there. I kind of like Hideshi Hino better, I think.
I love Hino.
Yeah. And maybe it's just because this the work it also reflects the time it was like written. This was back from 1969. I guess it just feels a little old in that sense.
Yeah, I do feel some kind of way about these young women being all torn up about turning ugly when they turn 18. That's a very like horror written by men in the 60s kind of trope. But Dark Fox, you were saying too, like the societal pressure to be beautiful and like some of that stuff kind of goes into it as well. And I don't disagree.
That's a charitable way to read it, where it's like it's not trying to portray these women as hysterical, weird, shrill dummies, but like monsters created by the expectations placed upon them by society.
Right. But I've seen storylines like this in other horror manga in the similar time period where it's like women being vain or superficial and that kind of being their downfall. So again, feel some kind of way about it. But also it was like really entertaining. So there's a certain.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I can do a certain amount of. I can let go to a certain amount, I guess, is what I'm saying.
I feel like that must be like a specific trope, especially in horror, like anthologies. Because I'm just off the top of my head, I'm thinking of a couple stories about like women who get some sort of like elixir of youth or something, and they're like, hell yeah, I'm gonna be super sexy and young now. But then it always backfires and they hyper age and then they shrivel up and die. It's like it's a very common thing. In these type of like horror short stories. I'll be shocked if there isn't a fucking name for it and everything.
We read a lot of those in Wonder House of Horrors from Starfruit Books.
Yeah.
Miyako Kojima anthology. Yeah.
And I'm thinking that the Kaneko Inuki book I brought up a while ago that I read, it had that story about a princess who was blind, was born blind and was raised by kindly people whom she loved, and she had a wonderful life, but she wanted to see. And when she could finally see, she discovered they were all hideous, and suddenly it was like she was terrified of them because they were all monsters, and she felt guilty. It was just like such a, I don't know, like ridiculous, superficial thing, but yeah, it's such a trope. And Kanako Inuki is a woman who wrote that. So and Wonder House of Horrors too is written by a woman, and they still had that kind of slant to them.
I really agree with what you say, Seta Morgana, about like this is just supposed to be entertainment, not that it's supposed to be um insignificant or not worth your while. But like, I recently had a conversation about like Indiana Jones on why I kind of like the Crystal Skull, and I don't think it's that bad. It's not a great movie, but like the Indiana Jones franchise, it kind of reminded me of that because it's just like it's supposed to be like adventure serials. It's not supposed to be like anything that like highbrow. It's just a guy going to places and having an adventure, and kind of how like the Junji Ito books have such good art, have such good craft. The performances from like Harrison Ford were so iconic and charismatic, and of course the John Williams soundtrack, and then you have the Steven Spielberg. There's so much like filmmaking craft shoved into this story about this fucking archaeologist stealing stuff from other cultures.
And he's a shitty archaeologist,
Yeah.
man. That is like my main complaint about Indiana Jones. He
It
sucks as an
belongs in a
archaeologist.
museum for white people.
Yeah.
No, but also just like he just wrecking shit. Like he's terrible.
Yeah. It's such a simple, just kind of nothing story, right? There's not much to it, but there's so much talents in the filmmaking. And I think over time, is fans of our Indiana Jones, they kind of like they build it up as like peak cinema, as just like, oh my god, I can't believe they're trampling on the legacy of Indiana Jones with this movie about aliens, crystal skulls. I'm like, well, what the fuck? Crystal Skull is kind of cool. I don't know. It's just, I'm gonna say it's a good movie, but like he goes around punches Nazis again. Actually, no, they're Russians in Crystal Skull.
Commies.
Yeah, commies.
Can I apply this to Star Wars?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, I think that for some reason our media landscape right now, everybody tries to judge something as though it was supposed to be a masterpiece, or like that it was supposed to be a certain, high art form, and it's like Hollywood is not like 99% of Hollywood is not what I would call capital A art. I think it's art in and of itself. I think it is an art form, film in general and everything, but it's not. I don't think most things turned out by Hollywood are intended to be like, I don't know. I don't really know how to like.
Can I apply this to the Marvel movies?
Yes, yeah. Well, and that's the other thing is when people get all up their butt about the Marvel movies and they're not that great anyway. But I'm like, yeah, because they're comic book, they're supposed to be fun, like And actually, that's kind of some of my complaint about some of them. Sometimes is they're trying too hard to be something bigger.
Can I apply this to all the new Star Trek stuff?
Oh yeah.
Like Star Trek Discovery.
Yes. I think the common denominator in all of this is fandom.
Yep.
Everything you're naming has a fandom that has turned very toxic and caustic. I don't know why I differentiated those two. They're kind of the same thing in my head. They're very toxic towards like new entries. Good or bad. You could criticize, oh, like this wasn't well done, or this was boring to me. But it's this romanticization of the previous stuff when ultimately it was good stuff. And there was great performances in Star Trek. Star Trek just has tons of character actors and theater people always coming in and playing a weird alien with shit glued on their face and shit like that, right? Just like fantastic fucking theater people and character actors who just act the shit out of this alien for 40 minutes. And then like I hold that to really high regard. But like it's just people with shit glued on their face. It's supposed to be interesting, fun stories. And like they blow it up and pretend like it's supposed to be something it really isn't, and just become super held up. They could get up their own ass about so much stuff. Fandom really is the thing, and I participate a lot in fandom culture. So I'm not trying to like separate myself completely from all of this. I just feel like fandom is stopping us from really, really appreciating the craft and the work that's put into this stuff, because we focus so much on like the 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 franchise or the property, or like the intellectual property. You know what I'm saying? It's like that's actually not that important, as opposed to like the people who worked on it and the performances, and like the actual work that's put into it, because that's actually what you actually enjoyed, and not what the sticker said on the tin.
Okay,
Hopefully.
counterpoint.
Hopefully.
Can I apply this to manga? Like shonen battle manga?
Yeah.
Or the rising increase of all the isekai shit?
It's entertainment. It's all entertainment, and people feel strongly about it.
I would say thankfully with manga, and anybody feel free to really disagree with me with this. Thankfully in manga, I feel like we have a really short grace period of the fans being stupid and being like, oh, well, Naruto was better than this. But maybe that's just my perception. Because I know there's shitty shonen fans on the internet. I hear you. I know there's shitty shonen fans that are just really toxic on Twitter and shit like that. But like, at least in my mind, they haven't reached the point of like, the Star Trek and Star Wars nerds who just really haven't had a life in a long time.
Yeah, but how much of that is the fact that the companies like can't just churn out Naruto like as much as they want, because
They are.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but they're
Boruto.
not. Yeah, that's like, okay, they got one sequel series. Like,
There's a Boruto stage show.
If DC Comics or Marvel had access to that, there'd be like 50 series and like 5 TV shows and like, I don't know, fucking this,
Do you
that,
know
and
how
the other
many
thing.
spin-offs of Attack on Titan there are?
So many manga spin-offs, and also light novel spin-offs, and also there's the anime, and also there's the movies.
Manga
I
has
think-
become like a...
Yeah, but I
maybe
think-
not Marvel and DC, but it's definitely a fucking franchise now. With
But
these
I think
popular
that's
stuff.
relatively newer for manga.
Yes.
It is.
So I
However-
think like you haven't had the like vast build up in the way you probably had with like stuff like Star Wars and Star Trek and the Marvel and DC stuff, and like the companies owning them, like they've been at this for like I think a lot longer and at a far greater scale than the likes of like the manga company people who own the manga companies are. Like yeah, probably like you're saying they're getting there in like 20 years time might be different. Well, the other thing too is like the same, like if the guy who made Naruto dies, what happens to Naruto? Like who owns the rights to it?
Shueisha, the publisher company.
Shueisha, but I feel, wouldn't the family have some say in it as well?
I mean,
Probably. It
let's look
depends
at
on
Golgo
his-
13 because Saito Takawa passed away and they're still doing Golgo 13. His company that he made.
Yeah, his
And
company's
the
still doing
people.
it. So like,
Yeah.
some of that money is probably going to his family. I assume he had a family. I don't know how that man lived.
Yeah, his wife was a manga artist.
Besides
His son's a
cool.
market artist. He has a
Yeah,
production
like see,
company that
I'd say
made
that's
Golgo
like
13.
slightly different. That's more like probably what's happening with like Lord, like the Tolkien estate. Like anything Tolkien has to be okay by the Tolkien estate, so they control
Right.
it,
I think that
and they are fairly restrictive.
that's a little bit more nebulous in manga, because we've had stories like the manga poverty guy, who he would have those arguments with the magazine, being like, wait, so who owns this, right? And it's a little if this is just my perception, I'm not an expert. It does feel like in manga it's kind of almost like a gentleman's agreement kind of thing happening, where maybe ultimately the manga magazine does have the final like power, but they enter.
Oh, the publisher 100% controls whether they accept anime companies, production thing for like, can we make this into anime?
but
It's not the and the manga artist has say, right? He
yeah,
can
they usually
say, like,
have
no
them
as well.
involved because there's no like it'd be bad for them in the long run to just totally alienate their creator, which might be a money maker for them.
But maybe the publisher is looking at some of these offers and just not even mentioning it to the creator in the first place. That could be happening too. I don't know.
I think the
Who
point is that
was the manga equivalent of Steve Ditko?
Ditko?
yeah, the artist
As
for
in
Spider-Man.
As in like the guy who Kim and Jack are like. The simple thing is Stanley. A lot of tongues are attributed to him by himself and the people at Marvel because it behooves the people at Marvel and him to attribute things to them that really are more Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, and like their respective families in the States have been fucked out of Christ so much money. And it's not just him; it's like the you can come up with Batman, you can come up with Superman.
So I would say Osamu Tezuka, but because they still make a bunch of like manga sequels based on his properties and his creations.
But like who? Like that's where it comes back. Like who owns the rights to that? Is it
probably
like the publisher?
Family. It's probably the family, and it might be the publisher might be in charge of like some of the series, like any Blackjack sequels that are happening, like Blackjack and Isekai. That's a manga that happened, but I'm sure it goes through like approval process for the Osamu Tezuka estate. I want to say
that's a big difference. Like Lucas probably had that with all that stuff, and then he sold it to Disney. So now they're like,
right.
And I guess it's like I don't think manga publishers are as like as financialized and as like they're not public companies who are like, lads, we got to bump these quarterly numbers. You know, we've got to hit this share price in 3 months. So
I would
just
say
shit
they
it out.
are based at least Shueisha, based on all the shit they're pulling, like that new AI thing that they announced for Jump Plus. The AI is gonna help you make your fucking manga and like write your dialogue for you. Like that's bad.
Yeah.
That's shitty.
I don't. So the manga publishers are not as big and powerful as Disney, but I don't think that means that the people in charge don't look at the bottom line very closely and try to move those numbers by whatever means possible. So,
oh yeah.
And I will also say, as somebody who is privy to a lot of comments and direct messages from fans through work, there are a lot of shitty kids out there, y'all, who have a lot of things to say about how things are published or what is done with them, even though they know nothing about how the industry works. So,
yep.
I think we have a different problem in manga than some of the other stuff we're talking about, where I do think that manga fans and light novel fans and anime fans tend to think of a lot of the things they consume as a superior art form, when truly it is, again, just entertainment. Not just entertainment. I don't want to qualify it like that. I think being entertained is very valuable, right? But yeah, I definitely think there are a lot of people, especially now that it's so omnipresent, that take it very seriously, and that's increasing. But I do think it's only now starting to increase because, like Seamus said, we haven't had the same timeline. There are the handful of us diehards who have been in this, who've been reading this shit for almost 30 years or whatever, and doing this, for a long time, our whole lives. But for the most part, a lot of manga fans are relatively new. In the last handful of years, it's really, really gone up. So I think we'll only see more stupid bullshit as long as we have more fans, which is in theory a good thing, but also the internet, which is a terrible thing.
Oh yeah.
I think it's up to us to be role models on how to appreciate manga and art and creators.
And let people like what they like.
That's right.
I don't know, man.
So if it's fucked up in 10 years, it's our fault. We didn't do enough.
Oh, I'm not taking any responsibility for these kids. They all had a pocket. They're like nuts.
Yeah. Some of them are. Some of them, I hope to God they're just 10
Young,
and they're gonna grow out of it. But some of them, there's something shitty in them,
There are sometimes I see comments, and it's on Yen's stuff, but also on the other publishers, like demands that fans are making, where I'm like, you have no idea what you're asking or how any of this works. Or like, I saw a comment on a book that somebody published that was like an official, like, actually, okay, now I remember what it was. Okay, it was our Dark Souls novel that we published at Yen. And they were like, "Oh, this is just fan fiction. Do you have permission from like whatever?" And I'm like, you don't know how any of this works, right? Like this is published by FromSoft is in the credits. Like I don't know what you like. What are you talking about? No, we didn't just make fanfic and publish it. Michael Stackpole is an author who has written about like he's written Warcraft novels and Star Wars novels. Like this is what he's paid to do.
That's awesome.
But and there was more than one comment like that about Dark Souls, and I think about the Elden Ring manga too. And I'm like, you really don't know how any of this works, or do you? Like,
whenever there's more than one really oddly specific comment, I always wonder, like, was there a fucking YouTuber out there that did a stupid fucking video, and then like, and then like all the kids like picked up torches because 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 sometimes like
blame an influencer who didn't do their fucking research.
Yeah, or we're just deliberately trying to like rile up rage clicks or whatever. But like just sometimes like damn, like y'all couldn't have been connected to the same dumbass like psychic wave. Like that just couldn't have happened.
Somebody put that stupid thought in your head.
Yeah, I don't know.
Whatever. We've gone on a fucking tangent.
We didn't mean to rant so much at the young kids.
Well, what I just want everybody out there to know who's listening. If a major publisher, if one of the major manga publishers is publishing something, then it went through a very long process of deciding who gets to license and publish it, and making sure all the contracts are right and all the ducks are in a row. There is no we're not just putting shit out there and messing it up. I promise you, we are all going through a lot of vigorous work and in communicating with licensors and in many cases creators. So please don't assume.
Why are you yelling at Yen? You should go yell at the people on Amazon who are like selling scanlations of Berserk for fucking like profit. Yell at them. They're the ones who are doing the legal shit.
Yeah, no, it's I promise you that Yen, Viz, Kodansha, Seven Seas, I don't know about Tokyo Pop, they do weird things, but in general, we're all keeping our ducks in a row and doing our very best to make sure that every I is dotted and T is crossed. There is no we are not trying to get into legal trouble over copyright and shit. Promise you that.
Yeah, so let's get back to Orochi. Darfox, would you read more Orochi?
Hot damn.
Okay.
Give me more of that Orochi.
Morgana, obviously you've read more since you have the second volume.
I have not read it yet. This was my first time reading. I read the first volume, but yes, I am absolutely going to read more. And I'm going to buy the rest of them to go with my other Umez books on my shelf.
What about you, Seamus?
Yes, I would read more.
I'm going to say maybe. Maybe I'll check out the next volume, but yeah, it's not so hot for me for this one. But there you go. We have finished our discussion on these 3 books, along with a tangent about the youth and fandom.
The youth.
I wonder if I need to timestamp that entire conversation as its own thing.
I was going to say I was going to say that after, but also I'd say that people complaining when the Jones probably are not that young.
Yeah.
The youth.
Or Star Trek or Star Wars.
Definitely not those. Those are fucking boomers.
But the ones who are mad about an entire Terminator film about Sarah Connor are probably young people who have never seen Terminator.
Oh, absolutely. Well, yes, we've reached the end of this triple dip. It's time to pick our favorite. My favorite is House of Five Leaves. I'm interested to reading the rest of this as soon as possible. Darfox, do you have a favorite of the 3?
Yeah. I have to remember what we read. What I read. Orochi is definitely my favorite.
Very nice. Morgana, what about you?
Orochi. And then House of Five Leaves. Pretty close after, I would say, but Saturn Apartments can go sit over there and I'll ignore it.
Go clean a window.
Go clean a window.
What about you, Seamus? Which one was your favorite?
Orochi.
Okay. You have an order for the other 2, Seamus?
I guess Saturn Apartments, because I've some interest in reading a second volume, but yeah, I don't think that's much of an endorsement.
Okay, and Darfox, do you have an order?
I'll tie the one I didn't read with Saturn Apartment.
All right. That's right. You only read the first chapter of House of Five Leaves.
Yes.
I will put Orochi second because I really soured on Saturn Apartments, especially after our discussion. And there you go. That is our order, and that'll be the end of this podcast. We went long today. Mostly
Too
because
much ranting.
we had a 30-minute rant about fandom.
I could have kept on going. I could have talked about Kung Fu.
Oh no,
fandom.
we totally could have kept on going, but we should end because it's late. We've been going for a while.
Okay.
Or you
Well,
can put it on YouTube there and give it a good title and
The worst fandom.
Probably.
ranking the fandoms in terms of worseness. There we go.
What Kathleen Kennedy doesn't get.
Oh boy. Well, let's go ahead and end this episode. I want to thank Darfox and Morgana and Seamus for being on this episode. Reminder that next week we'll be doing a Twipple Dip, looking at the next volume of Yokohama Kaidash Kiko, Die Dark, and Chainsaw Man. That'll be the second deluxe edition of Yokohama Kaidash Kiko, Die Dark Volume 4, and Chainsaw Man Volume 14, which is chapters 113 to 122. Stay tuned for that. If you enjoyed Manga Machinations, please subscribe to us, review us, rate us on iTunes. Is iTunes still a thing?
Yeah.
I think it's Apple Podcasts though.
It's still a thing on Windows.
Okay. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever else you can find us. Check out our website, mangamachinations.com. Tumblr is mangamachinations.tumblr.com. Come join the Discord server. Go to discord.me/mangamac. Buy some coffee to support us. Go to ko-fi.com/mangamactv. Subscribe to the YouTube channel where we stream this episode. youtube.com/mangamactv. I'm sorry, our coffee is ko-i.com/mangamac. Send us emails, mangamachinations@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter @mangamacpodcast. That's Manga MAC Podcast. You can follow my personal Twitter @Dakazu. Follow Darfox @Darfox8. Follow Morgana @MorganaRelina. And follow Seamus @Seamus2389. Seamus is without an H. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to us this week. Bye-bye.
Peace out, YouTube.